Hello friends, I bring up today a controversial issue and I try to do it with balance, equanimity and common sense to avoid misunderstandings. Opinion article: what is a patriot? At the beginning of a change, the patriot is hated. Spain helped American independence. What happens in the US will influence many other countries. Someday there will be stories of the soldiers of this time. There is already talk of the Second American Revolution. The struggle between patriots and globalists has brought this controversy. Personal sovereignty is linked to national sovereignty. This should not be related to any political ideology. It's the pride that the person feels for belonging to a nation. The homeland is the native country or adopted land to which we are linked. The most natural thing is to love your people, your land, and your cultural identity. A patriot is usually a relaxed, non-exalted human being with a sense of humor. He doesn't have any strange ideology to impose on anyone, but only to defend his own. But patriotism abounds among the armed forces of any country due to its virtues. The miraculous victories of history have been guided by divine providence. Let's start. The controversy on the issue of patriotism has become fashionable when it is said that there is permanent struggle between patriots and globalists. There are many misunderstandings on the subject of the homeland and patriotism, especially when it is identified with political ideologies that have nothing to do with it, because there are patriots of all ideologies and all of them are respectable as long as they do not intend to impose themselves by force. It would or should be something as natural as loving your people, your land and your cultural identity, and acting accordingly. A patriot is simply a person who has love for his country and seeks all its good for all citizens. Instead of the term globalism is a neologism that refers to an ideology that tries to end the nation-state as a framework for political and administration and a reference of identity. It's used to denounce the march towards a kind of totalitarian world state like China. This would occur under the double effect of economic globalization and internationalism. The term globalism is used to designate a concerted action of secret society, economic interest groups or lobbies, or pressure and influence groups to achieve the establishment of a world government. Globalist leaders have never hidden their view that the world is heavily populated and that the population has to be reduced. Of course, they hide the fact that there are clean technologies so that everyone can live well without the need to pollute or destroy ecosystems. In history, Spain aided the US troops with money, weapons, medicine and ships at the dispatch of more than 12,000 Hispanic soldiers who fought against the British Army. In addition, the successful military campaigns in the Mississippi of Bernardo de Galvez, winner of the Battle of Pensacola from Malaga, were of vital importance for the United States to achieve final victory. Native land. Patriotism is a thought that links an individual with his homeland. It's the feeling that a human being has for the native or adopted land to which he feels bound by certain values affections, culture, and history. It's the collective equivalent of the pride that a person feels for belonging to a family or also to a nation. In my opinion, national sovereignty is linked to personal sovereignty, because one protects the other. I should not be confused with other positions. The excessive exaltation of the national in front of the foreign is called chauvinism, while other related terms are jingoist, which advocates aggression against other nations, and jingoist, which would be exaggerated or untimely exaltation of national sentiments. The homeland, from the Latin father, usually designates that what would be the native or adoptive land to which an individual feels bound by ties of various kinds, such as affective, cultural, historical, or place of birth. The homeland is the set of past, present, and future spiritual and material elements that happen to a people, originating a feeling of love. He expresses himself in a desire for service when he feels the desire to contribute to the greatness of his country. Patriotism abounds in the armed forces of any country because it is cultivated through military virtues such as honor, loyalty, discipline, camaraderie, and friendship, virtues that often scarce among the civilian population, where mafia and street fights abound. A patriot is usually a relaxed and not exalted human being with a great sense of humor, because he has nothing to impose or hide, but only to defend what is his, and has always been his by customary natural law. A balanced patriot tries to be happy like everyone else, respecting and being respected. Only those who want to impose exotic and strange ideologies on a cultural identity get nervous. The Patriot. This word recalls the movie called The Patriot, starring Mel Gibson. To portray the spectacular scenes of the battle, Emmerich had more than 600 extras and with the most modern special effects. It is a 2002 war film directed by Roland Emmerich, written by Robert Rodat, and starring Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger. It was produced by the Mural Film Company and distributed by Columbia Pictures. This is an adaptation of the film Friendly Persuasion from 1956, starring Gary Cooper, Dorothy McGuire, and Anthony Perkins. Most of the film takes place in South Carolina, where it was entirely shot, and depicts the story of a veteran colonel dragged into the United States War of Independence when his family is threatened. The protagonist, Benjamin Martin, is roughly inspired by the Continental Army officer Francis Marion and other figures of the American Revolution who were supported by Spain. The Patriot was nominated for 3 Oscars, for the best sound, for the best cinematography, and for the best soundtrack. American Revolution. At the beginning of a change, the Patriot is a rare, brave, hated, and despised man. When his cause is successful, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Mark Twain. I have seen some of the phrases the patriots are using, and they are inspiring and very accurate. My favorite is the Second American Revolution, which encompasses it all in a nutshell. That phrase is very serious because it dates back to the times when landowners, peasants and citizens from all walks of life joined to the effort of regain their freedom. Someday, stories will be told of the digital soldiers of this time. They are ordinary people who spent countless hours continually researching, debating, meditating, and praying that the truth would be revealed to the people. Although they were mocked, censored, fired from their job, and thrown out to the street, they knew that their soul has agreed to do this job for a long time ago. According to James O'Brien, during the first American Revolution, patriots pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor in their quest for freedom. Many of them felt that divine providence was the only way to victory. This was his statement. And in dots, we hold that these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to ensure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute a new government, laying their foundations on such principles and organizing their powers in such a way that they seem more likely to affect their safety and happiness, and to support this declaration firmly resting in the protection of divine providence, we mutually commit our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Divine providence. When General George Washington's side was victorious, the majority reacted almost overnight. The miracle had happened, and there was no point in denying it. People like to be on the winning side. The patriots are now the winning side of the Second American Revolution. To some, this day seems ridiculous, especially at this late hour. But I tell you that when the tide turns, it will turn in a single day. Miraculous victories guided by divine providence have a curious way of turning hats into a penny. When did it once in this great country, and we are destined to do it again on this very occasion, and in what happens next. Often they will ask you angrily, "Who do you think you are?" And you will be able to answer, "I am a child of the Creator, and therefore I am the original source of universal creation manifested in the form of a human being. You are the universe, even if you don't know it, and therefore seeing yourself as a worm is the most common mistake of spiritual ignorance." Thanks a lot, friends.